Hi there, Nate Urandi, Orion Training Systems. If you hear any sound in the background, it is my Air Relax boots. Um, just got done with a race on Zwift. For those of you who don't know, it's an online gaming world for virtual cycling, and it was super tough today. In any case, my legs feel like they got the shit beaten out of them. So, walking up and down stairs is kind of tough. In any case, so if you hear that noise, that's what this is. Lots to cover today. I'm going to try and keep it short, actually. Um, you know, Doping in sports obviously fascinates me, and so it's a major topic that I cover fairly often. Um, UCI, David Lapertien, is now replacing Brian Cookson at the top of the UCI. It's a good it's a good time to take a step back and do a sanity check. Is it meet the new boss, same as the old boss? To quote a famous line in the Who song, "We won't get fooled again." Or is he really going to stand behind the changes he has stated he's going to make, his platform, if you will, and stand by those and really start to right the ship? Don't know, too early to tell. Heavy dose of skepticism until he proves us otherwise. So there's that. Now, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, Orion Training Systems, or I think it's Orion Coaching, I don't even know my own Twitter handle, on Twitter, search for me, you'll find the famous lion icon, if you will. In any case, I've been starting to keep track of, on an ad hoc basis, everything related to doping, and I don't scour the internet, but anytime I come across something, I post it or repost it, what have you. And I keep track of it on a number basis. It's kind of like if you watch The Simpsons, when Homer would go, "Doe!" That's the way I keep track of it, like "Doe number whatever." Well, just crested 100. And 99 and 100 was like a double down, if you will. And it was a double down because it was a 65-year-old cyclist who placed 95th at a time trial, some podunk local time trial in the UK, got popped for doping, and now he contested it, but got handed a multi-year ban. So it's a double for a couple of reasons. One, 65, 95th in a time trial. Why the hell is he the one being tested instead of somebody much higher up the results list? Secondly, it's his excuse. His wife spiked his recovery drinks as a way to show him that the supplements that she was supposedly taking could have positive benefits for him, just for health and wellness. Of course, that wasn't bought, and thank God UCAD didn't buy that. Can you imagine that? "Hey, honey, my recovery drink tastes a little funny. Did you put like cat litter in it? What?" Like, you would know if somebody were spiking your recovery drink with what are typically nasty tasting supplements, especially the ones that she was putting in there, Osterine and some others that are clearly anabolic. And where the hell would she get those? On the flip side of this, it's why is UCAD wasting its time testing somebody who's 65, placed 95th, and is so far down the list and so far away from the reality of what really is important in the anti-doping movement? Like, why is this an example of how the anti-doping system works? It shouldn't be. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been tested. I'm saying this should not be elevated as a model for why anti-doping is working. We have yet to see top athletes being handed these multi-year bans and being ensnared in the net. And you might ask why. The answer is multifaceted, but I'm reading a book called Speed Trap right now. It's written by Ben Johnson, if you remember that name from track and field sprinting lore from the 80s and into the 90s. He was a Canadian sprinter who was at the top of the game. His coach wrote a book called Speed Trap. And where the tipping point really happened, at least in the track and field world, was in the 1970s. Yes, there had been cheating up to that point for decades and obviously since then. But when the anti-doping movement really started in force, there was a decision that had to be made by the IAAF and by, the IOC, quite frankly, and that is, okay, if we're going to actually do this, where does that put us? Because if we start enforcing anti-doping, what is that going to do in terms of these records that have been set by clearly massive dopers across the board? Those records will never be achieved. So do we wipe them out? Do we leave them in and realize that they'll never be surpassed? Or, excuse me, and what does that do to qualifying standards for these events when these qualifying standards are now based off the rife doping eras? It's really a quandary if you think about it, and not an easy one to solve. So unfortunately, the solution that was put in place, and I'm speaking generally here, is to turn a blind eye and put a facade up, the man behind the green curtain, if you will, of an anti-doping movement that is really ineffectual, but at least gives the guise of trying to do something to clean up the sport, whether it's athletics, cycling, running, gosh, you name it, swimming, so triathlon, curling. So it's all for show. And so these 65-year-olds who placed 95th in a time trial, local podunk time trial, are served up as the fall guys, as the saying goes, to show that something's being done. We're trying to catch the cheats. We're getting these fish in the nets. Unfortunately, they're like krill. We have yet to get a shark or a whale or some, huge fish caught ensnared in that net. And it's funny because the names that they are going after to some degree are also athletes who are either at the tail end of their career or have already retired. And so when we look at, stored samples and so forth, it's like, who gives a fuck? Who gives a rat's ass what happened 5, 10, 20 years ago? Who do we need to go after right now, and why aren't we going after them? So I'll leave you with that. My legs just turned off, so this feels like a good place to sign off. But as always, leave your comments below. Send them directly to me. And as always, happy training.